The film started with Wakizaka Yasuharu, a Japanese army commander who defeated 50,000 Korean army troops with only 2,000 soldiers. He helped the Japanese army take control of the Joseon capital. His battle skills were unquestionable. At the Japanese army headquarters located in Busan, Wakizaka and his soldiers prepared for the next war to destroy the Korean naval forces, because previously the Korean army fleet had defeated the Japanese army fleet. One of the surviving crew members tells fearfully that the Korean fleet led by Admiral Yi Soon-shin has bokaisen or sea monsters, which are unmanned ships shaped like turtles with dragon heads that can emit fire. Wakizaka ordered his men to kill the crew because he thought the fear experienced by the crew could spread to other crew members. Wakizaka walked to the ship attacked by bokaisen. The wooden ship was badly damaged with large holes everywhere. There was a piece of iron stuck there from the fang of bokaisen's dragon head. Wakizaka stared at the hole in the ship and imagined how the war had happened. The battle at sea between the Korean and Japanese navies was intense and unrelenting. A month ago, the Koreans had managed to immobilize a Japanese ship with their fearsome bokaisen, which was shaped like a turtle with a dragon head that could emit fire. As the Japanese troops scrambled to get their bearings, the bokaisen's captain, Na Dae-yong, ordered his men to prepare the cannon in the dragon's mouth. With a deafening roar, flames began to shoot from the dragon's mouth, striking the Japanese ship and reducing it to a smoldering wreck. The cannon was fired several times, but the bokaisen was still stuck on the enemy ship. Fortunately, a Korean ship under the command of Admiral Soon-shin's troops appeared on the horizon and came to their aid. Dae-yong knew that he had to act quickly to free the bokaisen from the Japanese ship. He grabbed an axe and shield, protecting himself from enemy fire, but he was shot in the leg by a Japanese arrow. As Dae-yong stumbled, Soon-shin sprang into action, taking a crossbow and firing at the enemy. Despite the distance, Soon-shin's aim was true, and he managed to knock out one of the enemies with his bow. But in the chaos of battle, a Japanese soldier managed to shoot Soon-shin in the left shoulder. The pain was intense, but Soon-shin refused to back down. With Dae-yong's help, they managed to cut the dragon's fang free from the enemy ship, freeing the bokaisen from its trap. It's April 13, 1592, and the Japanese have invaded Korea. They quickly take over the fortress of Busan and then capture the Joseon capital in just 20 days. This forces King Seonju to flee and hide in the city of Pyongyang. With the Joseon Empire on the brink of collapse, 50,000 Joseon troops gather at Wangyosan Mountain to try to take back their capital. However, their hopes are quickly dashed when Wakizaka Yasuharu and his 2,000 troops ambush and decimate them on June 5, 1592. Meanwhile, on the southern seas, the Joseon war fleet led by Admiral Yi Soon-shin engages with 20 Japanese ships. Despite taking a bullet wound himself, Soon-shin leads his troops to victory, sinking all 20 Japanese ships. This is a major turning point in the war at sea, and the Japanese begin to fear Soon-shin and his skill as a naval commander. At the Jola military headquarters, Soon-shin surveyed plans for the construction of a new fleet of turtle ships, known as bokaisen to the Japanese. These ships were vital for the upcoming war, as the previous turtle ship had sustained damage and was in need of repair. As he studied the designs, Soon-shin's men suddenly reported the arrival of Admiral Won-gyun. Soon-shin rushed to meet the admiral, who was rumored to have sent soldiers to aid him. The Korean officers gathered to discuss their strategy for the impending battle. Admiral Won-gyun proposed a defensive approach, but another officer objected, arguing that they should launch an attack on the enemy first. Admiral Won-gyun disagreed, citing a recent incident where 50,000 troops were mercilessly slaughtered by only 2,000 Wakizaka soldiers. He warned that the enemy's strength could not be underestimated, and that attacking them head-on would be a grave mistake. As tensions rose and the officers debated their options, Soon-shin knew that the fate of their nation rested on the decision they would make. As the officers continued to discuss their strategy, Admiral Won-gyun grew increasingly frustrated with Soon-shin's men, who were insistent on launching an attack. He thought their plan was madness and instead advocated for a tight defensive strategy that could make their base one of the strongest remaining military outposts. Soon-shin remained silent, listening to Admiral Won-gyun's argument, but he knew that a defensive approach alone would not be enough to secure their victory. Deep inside the Japanese army headquarters in Busan, Wakizaka met with the Japanese Chancellor Advisor, Kuroda Kanbei. As he recounted the story of how he had vanquished 50,000 enemy troops with only 2,000 of his own soldiers, Wakizaka's ambition to defeat Soon-shin's army at the Jola military headquarters grew stronger. He knew that if he could take out Soon-shin, the mission to conquer Korea would be completed much faster. But Kuroda cautioned Wakizaka against fighting alone, reminding him that he would need help to take on Soon-shin's formidable army. Wakizaka asked Kuroda to send General Kato to assist him in the upcoming battle at the Jola headquarters. With the help of Kato and his own cunning tactics, Wakizaka was confident that he could defeat Soon-shin and bring glory to the Japanese Empire. The tension was palpable among Soon-shin's crew as they debated the design of their latest turtle ship. One captain suggested removing the dragon head to prevent it from getting stuck, but Sun Shin insisted that the head was essential for storing the ship's cannons. Meanwhile, De Yong sat alone, contemplating the problem of the dragon head. Just then, his friend entered the room carrying a basin with a turtle in it. As De Yong watched the turtle's head retracting and extending from its shell, he had a moment of inspiration. He realized that the turtle's retractable head could provide a solution to their problem with the dragon head. With this new idea in mind, he rushed to share it with the rest of the crew. Sun Shin sat alone, lost in thought about the devastating news of Wakizaka's victory over 50,000 Korean soldiers with only 2,000 men. Wakizaka's strategy of luring the Korean soldiers to Wangyosan Mountain and wearing them down before launching a surprise attack had been devastatingly effective. His contemplation was abruptly interrupted when his men delivered a letter from the King of Korea. The letter contained shocking news. The king had fled the fortress of Pyongyang and sought refuge in Ming, China. The war commanders were stunned by this news, knowing that it would undermine the morale of the people and threaten the fate of the Joseon kingdom. They were outraged, but there seemed to be only two options left: to fight to the death in defense or launch an attack. Sun Shin gathered some of his men to discuss the situation, but the weight of their decision was heavy on their minds. In the Japanese headquarters, Wakizaka held a secret meeting with his 3 accomplices. They were served by Jong Boram, a trusted comfort woman. They discussed information gathered from Joseon army prisoners about the range and accuracy of Joseon naval cannons, which could damage a target within 400 meters if fired accurately within 100 meters. They also learned about the unique way that Joseon warships reloaded their cannons, by turning the ship around instead of reloading. Wakizaka's men suggested that they should attack Sun Shin's sea fleet first and destroy the turtle ship or Bokaisen. They believed that taking out the turtle ship would demoralize the Joseon Navy and give them an advantage in the war. Wakizaka was determined to defeat Sun Shin and asked his cousin, Sae, to spy on Sun Shin at the Korean military headquarters. He wanted to uncover details about Bokaisen and Sun Shin's war strategies. However, Wakizaka knew that attacking Sun Shin's headquarters would not be an easy feat. He planned to ask General Kobayashi for help to launch a land-based attack. His men disagreed with his strategy, believing that they could take down Sun Shin's troops without assistance. But Wakizaka understood that Sun Shin was a formidable opponent, and he needed all the help he could get. Sun Shin was determined to gather information about the Japanese soldiers, and he used prisoners captured from previous naval battles to uncover intelligence. During one of his interrogations, a prisoner revealed that a man named Junsa had shot Sun Shin's left shoulder. The prisoner also shared that the Japanese army was amassing in large numbers at the Busan military headquarters to attack the Joseon kingdom and then the Ming kingdom in China. Sun Shin was curious why Junsa would divulge this information and decided to have a one-on-one conversation with him. During their discussion, Junsa asked Sun Shin why he continued to resist the invaders. Sun Shin replied that he would do anything to protect his country and his soldiers. Junsa was impressed by Sun Shin's dedication and commitment to his cause, and he decided to serve under him. Before their next military operation, Sun Shin and his soldiers practiced a wing formation in the middle of the ocean. During this exercise, Junsa and his friends acted as enemies on another ship. Sae, who was spying on Sun Shin's movements, recorded the exercise and reported back to Wakizaka. However, Sae did not see any turtle ships, which made him suspicious. He decided to visit Sun Shin's base with his men to release prisoners of war while Sun Shin was busy fighting. Under the cover of darkness, Sae snuck into the holding cell to free the Japanese prisoners. Once the guards were distracted, he made his way to the room containing the turtle ship plans. Sae hurriedly stuffed all the papers into his shirt, but his attention was momentarily diverted by one hanging paper. Suddenly, he was attacked by a South Korean soldier. Despite losing the initial struggle, Sae managed to counterattack. The 2 men tumbled out of the window, and Sae found himself trapped. Thankfully, help arrived in the form of Junsa. He assisted Sae in their daring escape from the base, and they managed to get away. The morning brought a sense of urgency as Admiral Sun Shin made his way back to the base. Upon arrival, he witnessed one of his turtle ships ablaze. The damage wasn't severe, but the theft of the ship's construction plans was concerning. Sun Shin quickly made his way to the ship's workshop to consult with Captain Dae-yong, who was in charge of building a new turtle ship. Sun Shin urged Dae-yong to hasten the construction of the new ship, despite his doubts that it would be completed in time for the upcoming battle. Dae-yong tried to reassure Sun Shin, assuring him that the new turtle ship would be different from his previous designs. However, Sun Shin was concerned that the stolen plans would give the enemy knowledge of the turtle ship's weaknesses. Dae-yong attempted to persuade Sun Shin that the new design would be effective, but Sun Shin was resolute. He declared that he would fight the war without relying on turtle ships. As Wakizaka delved into the construction of the turtle ship, Sae, Junsa, his ally in saving the vessel, joined in the study. As they analyzed the ship's design, Junsa shared her first-hand account of battling against Admiral Sun Shin on the open seas. She noted that while the turtle ship proved formidable in combat, it had a notable weakness. Once it made contact with an enemy vessel, it was often unable to disengage and move freely again. Wakizaka's crew expressed concern that Sun Shin, a skilled strategist, would easily anticipate the turtle ship's movements and attack. But Junsa challenged their assumptions, revealing that Sun Shin was known for his defensive tactics and would likely avoid attacking altogether. To further prove her point, Junsa disclosed a secret she had learned. The king of Joseon had fled to the border of the China Sea, leaving Sun Shin with no reason to attack. As they continued their discussion, a soldier suddenly interrupted to report the arrival of General Kato's fleet, there to provide much-needed assistance. Shortly after, Sun Shin's spy, Lim Junyong, relayed crucial intelligence about Wakizaka's fleet. According to Lim, Wakizaka commanded 30 large and 70 medium-sized ships, while General Kato's force consisted of 20 large and 20 small ships. Together, they had amassed a formidable fleet of 140 warships, including Kato's cutting-edge vessels with thicker hulls and never-before-seen cannons. To make matters worse, Junyong informed the commanders that one of Kato's ships was lined with iron, further amplifying the already challenging nature of the upcoming battle. With Wakizaka's significant military force, Admiral Won Gyun proposed dividing their troops to protect both Jeju Fort and Jola Base. But this plan faced strong opposition from other officers, and tensions began to rise. To defuse the situation, Sun Shin intervened and quickly put an end to the heated debate. He announced that they would launch a surprise attack against Wakizaka's forces the following night at midnight, without revealing his specific strategy. Wakizaka warmly received General Kato and his troops, even hosting a festive gathering to celebrate their arrival. As they enjoyed their evening, a messenger from General Kobayashi interrupted them with urgent news. Without hesitation, all the entertainers were dismissed from the room before the messenger delivered the message. The message revealed that Kobayashi had devised a plan to support Wakizaka's forces in attacking Jola's military base by land. Thrilled by the prospect of gaining even more territory, Wakizaka announced that they would move forward with the plan the following night. However, General Kato was outraged by Wakizaka's decision to take action without consulting him first. He argued that their forces should have coordinated and collaborated before proceeding with such a significant operation. In response, Wakizaka defended his actions, explaining that the Japanese chancellor sought to consolidate power in the Joseon kingdom through military conquest. It was a dark and silent night when Borum arrived at the meeting place, where Wakizaka was waiting for her. Suddenly, Junyong, a spy for Sun Shin, emerged from behind the curtain. He had been hiding all along, eavesdropping on their conversation. Junyong had some valuable information to share with Sun Shin, so he needed to find a way to escape from the meeting unnoticed. However, their plan was quickly foiled when they realized that they were surrounded by Wakizaka's soldiers and Sehei's men. Borum acted quickly, plunging her knife into Wakizaka's chest to create a distraction. This gave Junyong the opportunity to make a run for it and escape through a nearby window. Sehei and his men immediately gave chase, but Junyong managed to limp his way to the beach, where his two friends were waiting for him in a boat. Junyong managed to get into the boat, but tragically, his two friends were shot and killed by Wakizaka's soldiers. As Junyong raised the sails and tried to flee, the Japanese soldiers launched fire arrows and set the boat ablaze. With no other options left, Junyong hurled himself into the sea, barely escaping with his life. In another part of town, Wakizaka was seething with anger after learning about Borum's betrayal. Instead of killing her outright, he viciously ripped her mouth as a punishment. Enraged and seeking retribution, Wakizaka then ordered his troops to round up and execute any Koreans they deemed suspicious. The result was a bloody massacre, as innocent Koreans were ruthlessly hunted down and slain. As Sun Shin mobilized his naval fleet, he made a stop at Dampo Harbor. Meanwhile, Wakizaka's troops were on a rampage, mercilessly slaughtering General Kato's men as they rested. Wakizaka then captured General Kato and coerced him into surrendering all of his ships in the harbor. Though seething with anger at Wakizaka's betrayal, Kato had no other option but to comply. With the fleet in his possession, Wakizaka wasted no time in leading his troops across the sea. As they sailed, he and his 3 men read a letter given to them by the Japanese chancellor's advisor, promising a large reward if they succeeded in fully taking control of the Joseon kingdom. The chancellor even gifted Wakizaka a golden fan as a reminder of the promise. Full of confidence, Wakizaka boasted to his colleagues that he would be able to catch up with the 1st and 2nd divisions of Japanese troops, who had already made their way into Ming China. In a covert operation, Junsa managed to free Borum from captivity, and after receiving medical attention, she was given a crucial task: to provide Sun Shin with information about Wakizaka's plan to launch a devastating attack on Jola's military headquarters, both by sea and land. Fully aware of the dire consequences that could ensue if she failed, Borum wasted no time in mounting a horse and riding to Dampo, where Sun Shin and his troops had made a stop. Meanwhile, Wakizaka was informed that Sun Shin and his fleet were in Dampo, so he devised a plan to intercept them in the Ganeyang Strait. On the other hand, Sun Shin and his colleagues searched for Wakizaka's whereabouts but to no avail. At this point, Admiral Won Gyun suggested withdrawing the troops to defend the fort since they could not find the enemy. However, a soldier later reported that Wakizaka and his fleet were in the Ganeyang Strait with around 100 Japanese ships. Admiral Won Gyun immediately ordered an attack, but Sun Shin remained calm and proposed to lure the Japanese ships into the open sea rather than fight them in the narrow strait. Admiral Won Gyun disagreed, insisting that it would be easier to attack while the enemy was anchored. Sun Shin argued that the strong currents in the strait would destroy their own ships and suggested using the wing formation to lure Wakizaka's ships. However, Admiral Won Gyun refused, believing it was a sacrifice operation and that they could not defeat Wakizaka in a wing formation. As the troops were preparing for battle, Commander Yeongdam proposed a daring plan to lure the enemy. Just as Admiral Sun Shin was about to design a wing formation for his men, urgent news arrived from Junsa. A secret message revealing that Kobayakawa's troops were not headed towards Jeju Fortress as anticipated, but were instead moving towards the Jola military headquarters. The message also warned that the Japanese would attack Sun Shin's forces from both sea and land simultaneously, presenting a formidable challenge. Meanwhile, Junsa was keeping a watchful eye on the movements of the enemy and was shocked to see thousands of Kobayakawa's troops advancing towards the Jola military headquarters. But before he could take action, he was ambushed by a Korean soldier and held at the edge of a cliff. With the enemy approaching, Hwangba sprang into action, leading his men to construct a barricade at the narrow pass that the Japanese troops would have to traverse to reach their destination. When Hwangba realized that Junsa was on their side, he quickly untied her, and the two of them watched in horror as the vast Japanese army marched towards the Jola military headquarters. Meanwhile, Sun Shin was focused on creating a wing formation plan to repel Wakizaka's troops. After much concentration and effort, he succeeded in devising a winning strategy. With the plan in place, Sun Shin and his fleet set out towards the Ganeyang Strait, where Wakizaka and his troops were waiting for them. As they arrived, Sehei reported to Wakizaka that Sun Shin's ships were sailing towards the high seas and that none of them were the formidable turtle ships. The tension was palpable as the two sides prepared for battle. Meanwhile, Commander Yeongdam was leading a mission to lure Wakizaka's troops out of the Ganeyang Strait. With only 3 ships at his disposal and thick fog limiting visibility, the task was daunting. As they approached, the Japanese troops could not discern the number of enemy ships, and the situation became tense. The left wing of Wakizaka's troops was led by Manabe, while the right was led by Watanabe. Suddenly, a soldier shouted that the enemy was in sight, and shots rang out in the foggy battle area. Yeongdam responded with cannon fire, prompting Wakizaka to order Sehei to hold off the attack until they could determine the number of enemy ships. Despite the intense barrage of gunfire, Yeongdam remained undeterred and ordered his men to advance another 100 meters towards the enemy. He refused to surrender until the Japanese troops were lured out of the strait, even as they rained bullets down on his ships. As the battle raged on the Hansan Sea, Sun Shin and his troops waited anxiously for Yeongdam's plan to unfold. However, Yeongdam's troops soon ran out of gunpowder, and the clearing fog made their position more precarious. Despite this, Yeongdam's soldiers suggested a retreat, but they were jolted by the sudden explosion of a nearby ship, the result of cannon fire from Kato's ship, which Wakizaka's troops had commandeered. The enemy was countered with an onslaught of more cannon fire. As the fog lifted, Wakizaka's troops could now see the enemy more clearly. To their surprise, they found only 3 ships in front of them. Wakizaka was not willing to leave the safety of the strait to engage with such a small number of ships. As the two fleets faced each other, Manabe made a sudden move and led his troops to pursue Commander Yeongdam's ships from the left side. Yeongdam was caught off guard and found himself unable to escape the pursuing Japanese ships. With no way out, the Japanese ships began firing at Yeongdam's ship while their soldiers threw anchors and ladders to board it. Despite the looming danger, Yeongdam prepared his men for close combat. Just when all hope seemed lost, a powerful explosion rocked the Japanese ship, courtesy of a Korean army troop ship led by Commander Lee Eun-ryong, who had come to Yeongdam's aid. Seeing this, Yeongdam quickly ordered a retreat, and his rowers at the bottom of the ship pushed their limits to get away from the Japanese ships. But Manabe was not giving up that easily. He ordered his troops to pursue Yeongdam's ship once again. However, Wakizaka had a different plan. He ordered Sehei to deliver a message to Manabe, advising him not to chase Yeongdam's ship and to stay within the strait. Despite his subordinates' warning, Manabe refused to back down and continued to chase Yeongdam's ship relentlessly. As the pursuit continued, Manabe's ship fired relentlessly at Yeongdam's vessel. However, the current was too strong, and Manabe's smaller ship collided with Commander Eun-ryong's vessel, causing some Japanese soldiers to fall into the sea. Despite the collision, Manabe remained undeterred in his pursuit and attempted to board the enemy ship, ignoring the chaos around him. However, his recklessness had dire consequences. In front of him, a large rock loomed, and it was too late to turn the ship around. The ship collided with the rock and came to an abrupt stop. As soon as the Korean ships, which had managed to survive the strong current and rocks, saw Manabe's ship in trouble, they quickly aimed their cannons at it and destroying the ship. As the battle raged on, Sun Shin received news that the enemy's main fleet had no intention of leaving the strait. He knew that if they were to emerge victorious, they needed to perfect their flank formation, and that meant bringing Commander Yong-dam and Commander Un-ryong on board. Despite the danger, Sun Shin ordered all ships to pick up the two commanders. The mission was a success, and as they moved towards the strait, they could see the sight of Sun Shin's naval fleet ahead. As the battle raged on in the strait, a new front was opened on the cliffs near Jola. Kobayashi troops had launched an attack on the Korean troops, hoping to capture the Jola base. The scene was one of chaos, with explosions, gunfire, and sword clashes echoing through the air. Despite the overwhelming odds, Junsa fought on, determined to keep his promise to serve Sun Shin. Huang Ba's troops, on the other hand, were struggling to hold back Kobayashi's vast army. Despite their valiant efforts, they were eventually forced to retreat. They continued to fight, hoping to slow down the enemy troops and buy enough time for the Jola military headquarters to prepare for the impending attack. As the battle on land raged on, Wakizaka's troops on the high seas began to move closer to Sun Shin's ship. Seeing this, Sun Shin immediately ordered Commander Yong-dam and Commander Un-ryong to retreat and perfect their wing formation. As the Wakizaka ship closed in, Sehei ordered his soldiers to fire upon the enemy vessel. The Koreans retaliated, and in the midst of the chaotic battle, Japanese soldiers threw an anchor onto the Korean ship and began to pull it towards them. Despite heavy losses, they attached a ladder and climbed aboard the enemy vessel. Commander Yong-dam and Un-ryong's ships fought valiantly, but they were eventually forced to return to formation. However, Commander Yong-dam was struck by a bullet and suffered a severe shoulder injury. Meanwhile, Admiral Sun Shin and his troops worked to form a flank formation, while the Wakizaka ship took on a fish-scale formation. As the situation grew increasingly tense, Sehei continued to target the ships of Commander Yong-dam and Un-ryong, while Watanabe chased after the right flank of the formation led by Admiral Won-gyun. When a Japanese ship approached, Won-gyun fired at Watanabe's vessel, but it only served to weaken the flank formation further. The battle raged on, with no clear end in sight. As the enemy ship drew near, a soldier pleaded with Sun Shin to give the order to fire the cannons. But Sun Shin, determined to wait until the formation was perfect, refused to allow any premature shots. The situation was growing increasingly dire for the Korean troops as the enemy closed in. Watanabe's ship drew ever closer to Admiral Won-gyun's vessel, and the Japanese soldier readied his sword for a close-quarters fight. Meanwhile, Admiral Won-gyun crouched behind the barricade, unable to mount an effective defense. Sun Shin's soldiers could only watch in resignation, fearing the worst. At a distance, Wakizaka looked on with a smug smile, sensing victory was within reach. Despite the mounting pressure and imminent danger, Sun Shin remained steadfast in his decision to hold his fire until the perfect moment. In a stunning turn of events, the battle was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of the Bokaisen or turtle ship. With a dragon head that could fire cannons, the turtle ship charged fearlessly into the fray, crashing mercilessly into Watanabe's vessel and destroying everything in its path. Black smoke filled the air as the ship exploded into flames. As the chaos unfolded, Watanabe seized a cannon in an attempt to retaliate against the turtle ship. But to his surprise, a second turtle ship emerged from the smoke, flanked by a smaller vessel. In a matter of seconds, the Japanese troop ship was under heavy fire from the turtle ships, whose sturdy shells withstood the Japanese cannons with ease. The battle had taken an unexpected turn, and the tide seemed to be turning in favor of the Koreans. As the turtle ship closed in on Wakizaka's vessel, it became clear that the ship's iron plating provided a formidable defense. But Wakizaka, keenly aware of the turtle ship's vulnerabilities, aimed his cannons at the ship's hull, blasting through its defenses and leaving the hull in ruins. Japanese soldiers fired relentlessly at the turtle ship's crew, hoping to turn the tide in their favor. But the Japanese were quickly met with fierce opposition from another turtle ship, which relentlessly fired upon Wakizaka's vessel. As the turtle ship drew nearer, Sehei bravely rammed his ship into it, causing the turtle ship to explode into a fiery inferno. Wakizaka's vessel was struck again, this time by a smaller turtle ship, and the battle raged on with increasing intensity. As the small turtle ship approached, Captain Dae-yong plotted his attack. Sehei's vessel waited patiently for the collision, anticipating the turtle ship's head would become lodged in their ship's side. Sehei planned to seize the opportunity to take out the turtle ship's crew. However, to Sehei's surprise, the dragon head on the turtle ship slowly burrowed into his vessel, and the impact unleashed a barrage of cannon fire from both ships. The crews of both vessels fought fiercely, unleashing volleys of gunfire and sword strikes, as the battle continued to rage on. The battle raged on as the turtle ship continued its onslaught, destroying nearby ships including Sehei's. Wakizaka, angered by his cousin's death, readied his ship to attack Sun Shin's vessel. As they closed in, Sun Shin remained silent, refusing to give the order to fire. The tension was palpable, and Wakizaka beat his war drums as his ship drew closer. The Japanese troops prepared to board Sun Shin's ship, but just as Wakizaka's ship was 50 meters away, Sun Shin suddenly ordered all ships to turn with all their might, blocking Wakizaka's access. At point-blank range, Sun Shin's ships opened fire, decimating the enemy fleet. The Japanese troops tried to ram their ships into Sun Shin's blockade, but to no avail. They were met with heavy fire and quickly defeated. Meanwhile, on the land battlefield, the news of the attack on the Jola military headquarters spread, and other troops came to help, managing to repel the Japanese troops. With the success of the Joseon troops, repelling the Japanese on both land and sea, Sun Shin mobilized his troops towards the capital city of Busan, taking it back and expelling the Japanese invaders. With the battle finally won, the movie came to an end. The moral message that can be taken from this epic tale is to be cautious of trusting strangers. They may have ulterior motives and bad intentions towards us, and we should always be vigilant in our interactions with them.